I was so thrilled when I was told that I'd be getting this award, because let me tell you, I love GLAAD. I love GLAAD. And as you heard, I've been doing this for about 30 years, so I've worked with folks in the various legal communities, and what I love about GLAAD and the other legal groups in our community is that we all work together. We all work together. So I hope that anyone who didn't pick up that card yet, because I did, and I looked at my spouse, Nan, and I said, and how much can we give? I think we should give. I really do hope that people picked up that card and put in to meet that incredible, incredible match. So we are living in some tough times, right? That is just the reality. So I want to talk a bit about anger and passion, and then I want to say something about generosity of spirit, because certainly in this day and age, I think it's hard for us to think about that as well. But I think we need all of this together in terms of making an impact. So a little bit about anger and passion. There are injustices that happen in this world that make us angry. When Sydney Abbott was not able to get treated for dental care because she was HIV infected, she was presumably shamed and humiliated and angry. And when GLAAD and people like Ben Klein found out about what happened, they were angry. And they were moved by their passion to vindicate her right to be free from discrimination. And thank goodness, there was a law on the books that could be used to vindicate her right to justice. But words on the books are not the same thing as words that are vindicated. And you need lawyers like Ben and others, to bring the cases to establish those rights. That's why we're supporting a group like GLAAD. So the ADA itself came about because of anger and passion. In the late 1980s, AIDS was ravaging our community. We saw our friends dying every day. They didn't have access to drugs that they needed. They were faced with discrimination in everything from healthcare to work to housing to public accommodations. We were angry, justifiably so. And that fed our passion. For some people, it meant creating groups like ACT UP and taking to the streets. For other people, it meant trying to bring litigation and pass legislation. It made me take a job in 1988 at the ACLU AIDS Project shortly after I finished clerking for Justice Harry Blackmun, and all my friends were going off to these big law firms and going to make a lot of money. And I'm like, no way, no way. People are dying. And then I was lucky enough that Nan Hunter had just a few years earlier started the AIDS Project and the Lesbian Gay Rights Project at the ACLU, the first time that there was an AIDS, HIV, and LGBT project at a mainstream national organization, the ACLU. Awesome. Awesome. And this is the point about all the legal groups working together to make change. So I got hired, and I was able to work at the ACLU AIDS Project. I had to explain to Nan why we were not pursuing an AIDS-specific non-discrimination bill, and instead to protect people with all forms of disabilities. And she was like, okay. Because it was ethically the right thing to do, and ultimately it was politically the right thing to do. Now here's the thing. Forms of discrimination against LGBTQ people and HIV-infected people have changed over the years. That's a reality. But discrimination still exists. And it's worse in some parts of the country than others. But one act of discrimination anywhere is an act of discrimination too much. So we have to hold on to our anger and our passion in fighting against injustice. And during the past 7 years, the EEOC, where I was so honored and overjoyed to be able to be one of the commissioners at the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, that is the federal agency responsible for enforcing our federal employment anti-discrimination laws, the EEOC was able to play an important role in fighting discrimination against LGBT people. And what the EEOC did in ruling in these two cases is, from my perspective, simply engaged in common sense. The law says you can't discriminate based on sex. That means you're not supposed to take sex into account in making an adverse employment decision. Well, if Mark has the picture of his wife Mary on his desk and everything's cool, and then Sally has the picture of her wife Mary on the desk and she gets fired, duh, what's the difference between Mark and Sally? I think it's just the sex, right? In 1964, it should have been clear that the '64 Civil Rights Act protected us against discrimination based on sexual orientation. It should have been the same for transgender folks. Wait, let me get this. So Mark applies for the job, says it gets, yeah, he can have the job, but then Mary calls and says, great, I'll be starting on Monday, and they're like, who the hell are you? Yeah, well, I'm the one you offered me the job to. I'm Mary. Oh, no, you don't have the job anymore. What else but sex has been taken into account, right? However, as you all know, that's not how the courts had ruled. It's not how the EEOC had ruled. But when I and others got to the EEOC, it was the passion and the brains of many people at the EEOC that said, we need to engage in legal correction, not legal overreach. People said, oh, the EEOC, legal overreach, when they said that sex discrimination included discrimination based on sexual orientation or gender identity. No, legal correction. The overreach was when they excluded us from the law, when they were analyzing what sex discrimination meant. No, we're about legal correction. Anger at injustice, passion about doing what's right, but also having the cultural change occur so that common sense could prevail. I say we needed cultural change before legal logic could come forward. Now, we don't know what will happen with the Supreme Court. A lot of people worked to get those cases before the court right now. If the Supreme Court rules the way the EEOC did, with, from my perspective, common sense, it will make a huge difference for LGBTQ people across this nation. And if that happens, excellent. And if it doesn't, just think back to what you heard about how to move forward and what to do to make change. Either way, we will be persisting. So I want to end, though, with a few words about generosity of spirit. So it's not easy to feel generous when someone has done something that is so clearly wrong, right? Obviously, anger and frustration and resentment is what comes through first. But as Nelson Mandela said, resentment is a poison we swallow, thinking it will kill our enemy. Anger can eat away at us sometimes in a way that is not healthy and not helpful. So particularly in this day and age, we must challenge our anger and passion in a way that is constructive. And let's consider an additional piece in that. I don't want us to allow our anger and our passion to make change, to stop us from reaching across divides in an effort to find common ground when one is possible. Sometimes it's not going to be possible to find that common ground, and we can all think of some scenarios. But for those times, and in those situations where it may be possible to find common ground with those who have opposed us in the past, because we tell them who we are, because we have them understand what it means to be transgender, to be LGBT, to be queer, if it is possible to reach across divides and make common ground with those who have opposed us in the past, I wouldn't want us to miss that opportunity. So thank you, GLAAD, so much for all the work you do. I was so humbled, truly humbled and thrilled to be given this award this year together with the people who have gotten it over the past years. So I want to conclude by saying that I have been the beneficiary, I feel, of much generosity of spirit. I want to thank my sister Miriam Feldblum, who taught me that phrase several years ago and who embodies it in her life, both towards me and towards others. And I'm just so grateful for having Miriam. And I want to thank Nan Hunter, whom you heard about a bit before, but she's also my spouse. She's the love of my life. And she loves and supports me when my anger and passion manifest in many hours of work and in, let's just say, the full range of emotion that can come out when one is feeling passion for the work one does. So, truly, though, I want to end by thanking all of you here. You are here to support GLAAD's groundbreaking work, which we need more now than ever. And we need it in the way that was described, thinking big about how to make change. So thank you for supporting GLAAD in that work. But also, you are here to support each other. In this world, in these times, we need each other. We need to be with others who are feeling the same anger and passion and who are working side by side with us to fight the injustice in this world. I am so glad that all of you are out there. Thank you so much. Have a great evening.